what's up, everybody? It's Jack Lloyd here, back for some more good stuff, talking about the Rippaverse specifically. And today we're going to be going through the ISOM concept art book. So the other day I went through the fan art contest and all those rules, and that was actually pretty important, I think, for people to know and to look at, because there's a lot of nuances to the rules, and you got to be able to turn back in, if you win, you got to turn back in your notification that you received the announcement, and then you have to do some other paperwork too within a few days. So I thought that was actually pretty useful for people who are trying to actually participate in the fan art contest, just to be aware that you have to be on top of it in order to be considered eligible. So take a look real quick and seeing who's here. Hey, what's up, ANCAP Gamer? Definitely first. Yeah, we're just hanging out here. It's a little bit afternoon here, and we're going to be, going through the concept book. So we're going to be taking a look at the artwork inside. I'm going to read through it all. So this is kind of I guess you could say a full, more a detailed view at what's inside. And if you didn't get this book, or you weren't able to get your hands on it, could be good to be able to actually just, see what's going on in there, because there's only 2,000 of these made. And so, there's nothing left to spoil for the future in terms of future purchasing, because this can't be bought again. So it's, showing this off, no one's going to be able to oh, well, now I don't need to buy it, because that's it. Once this was bought, that's it. There's no more sales of this to go around. There was only 2,000 on the campaign, and that was the cutoff. So no one else could actually, pick this up unless they're getting it from someone else who decides to give it up. And at least from what I'm seeing so far, this is not one that a lot of people want to give up. People were selling their extras and maybe, the A's and B covers, the main comic, but the concept art kind of is a special piece of history, a rare item. And it's probably, you're not going to see as many of these flying around, I think, online, of people trying to sell it, at least right away, because it is such a unique and special piece that, was the most limited of all the pieces on the campaign. The trading cards were limited to the campaign, but there was no cap on the number sold. And then, of course, there was a lot of the comic books. There was, caps on certain covers, but those were, in the well above 10,000 copies. It was close to 20,000 copies, and so on and so forth. So this was truly the rarest piece in the set in terms of something that people could get. So Snorky Trent's here too. Says probably some on eBay. Maybe I haven't seen any yet of this on eBay. Maybe there's been some new listings, but all the stuff I see on eBay was mostly the cover A and B, some signed stuff, and this and that. So it was mostly people just probably buying the main issue and trying to do reselling. So. And then Ankak here says it's Mountain Time, nice. And then SB says, "Hey folks, hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Good to see you back." So we're gonna take a look here at the book start to finish. So I'm gonna do a little bit of more of a close up here, because again, this is really meant to be something for people who may not have been able to get it for whatever reason. Maybe they missed out time wise, maybe they couldn't afford to get this on top of something else, but whatever it is, it's your chance to actually see this through and through. So the cover itself doesn't have much in terms of art on the outside. It's just kind of a more plain cover with the logo. The back there is also plain, has a Rippaverse Comics branding at the bottom, but it's just meant to be, kind of this standalone little preview of what's going on in the universe. And you can see down there, Eric July. It says narration. So he's just kind of doing the narration of what they talk about in there. Marcos Rios is a concept artist. He was actually joined us just the other day. He was talking with Igor in another stream, so that was cool to see him. And then Eric Weathers is the letterer, which is something that I hold near and dear to myself now, having started doing the letters on Voluntarius, and now I've actually... at this point, I'm going to be the letterer for the entire Origin series, because I just redid all of the letters, the latest issues, and then as I'm remastering the other ones, I'm doing those letters as well. So I'm going to be opening this on up now. So I'm going to open it to the first page inside. So you can see there it has a blank interior cover page, and then it has the Avery Silman, aka also known as ISOM, character. You can see there it shows some of those initial sketch drawings. And I'm going to pull this up a little bit closer to you here so you can really see it. So again, obviously there is some spoilers here in terms of the interior. So if you're waiting on your issue and you don't want to see it before then, you might want to wait to watch this. Or, if you're waiting to read the first issue first before reading any detail, you might want to wait to watch this video just because there will be some maybe spoilers to the storyline, before you actually read the first issue. So, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read what it says. So it says here, ISOM was the first character that I created for Rippaverse Comics. I went in with the intention of creating someone that I had the utmost confidence in because this is a character that would be the primary focus when the company launched. The first thing I did was type out how I envisioned ISOM as well as his background. This is a method I followed with most of the characters. But the unique thing about ISOM was that I drew a sketch of his face and suit before I sent it to Marcos. So Eric's saying here that he actually, kind of drew a sketch of the face and suit, just kind of prototyping it beforehand. I even colored the suit on a tablet, so he even threw down some colors for it. The truth is, I wanted Marcos to have as many reference points as possible, even though my sketch was terrible. I know that feeling. I've done a few sketches myself. They're not the best. I'm not a comic book artist in that way. I do, cartoonish stuff, but not comic book art. He did a fantastic job of bringing it to life. You don't see a lot of heroes with this color scheme. True, orange is not as popular, and neither is yellow, typically. That's another reason why I liked Voluntarius Black and Gold. And that's a big reason why I went with it. As soon as Marcos sent back the concept art, it really set in stone our relationship because of how good it was. It was obvious that he gets it, and I hope to have him on our team for many years. I can't wait for the world to read his origin story because I feel it's something very special. ISOM was the first character we worked on, but not the first thing pertaining to Rippaverse we created concept art for. I conceptualized the city of Flores Park, Texas, and other locations of interest, such as ISOM's ranch, which I provide Marcos a terrible sketch of. So again, just looking up here, you can see there in a Marcos sketch that there's some, color toning there. So just a couple of different reference points, which, and if you're using a software that's like Photoshop or Illustrator or something like that, you can just use your eyedropper tool and click on those to get it. They didn't list the hex marks, the RGB hex codes for it, but they just have kind of like those sample dots on the side. Okay. The next page here is Altona Sylvan. So there's two different characters on this spread, but we're looking at the next page, Altona Sylvan. So I'm gonna get this up a little bit closer so you can just kind of see it. So they have her there with what looks like cell phone and something's beeping from it, some music. They got some skin tones and other things like that. Outfit, character, head turn. And I will say it is very important to do your character turns early whenever you're developing your series. That was the one thing I regretted doing or not doing as much in the beginning. When I started Voluntarius, I kind of got straight into it. I mean, I did develop the first character in super suit form, but I should have done a lot more of the character turns at the beginning. And I, regret doing that. And then, of course, I've had to build back up those character turns over time. So important to do this, to do your concept arts first before you dive into your story, like actually doing the design, because then you can have a lot of continuity issues. It becomes a real pain in the butt. All right. So Altona Sylvan. Support characters are arguably just as important to develop as the main ones. Creating ISOM marked the creation of my universe Bible in which I document everything for continuity purposes. I came up with a brief family tree and quick background for Avery and his family. This is when I figured that his sister Altona will be introduced in the first book and have an important role. She needed an interesting backstory of her own. I tied her to the biotech company Projexis because that would create some interesting storylines going into the future. In a world with super beings, the people without powers are more challenging to create, and you must really focus on their development. I modeled Altona slightly after my cousin, and then Marcos did the final concept art. One of the most important things to come from Altona's creation is her daughter, Vassie. I don't know if Vassie is pronunciation right, but So there you go. And of course, on the next page, next to that is the Yaira. So this is the Yaira concept art, and you can already see there when they did some of these concepts, they have her both in a super suit form and in kind of a workout form. So she's in some type of exercise clothing. And I really like that they did a lot of development with her, as you can see there, because you can see they did hands, facial turns, multiple outfits. I think that's pretty good too. Especially if you're a character that you're going to be using a lot right off the bat, and they're going to be in different outfits, you definitely want to have something with them that for your demonstration purposes, that shows them in different positions and suits and stuff like that to get a sense of their total body. So, okay. So let's see what it says for Yaira. It says the intention of ISOM number 1 was to not just introduce ISOM and his story, but to also serve as a launching pad for an entire universe. So we absolutely had to write a story that made sense so that we could bring in other characters that would play vital roles later. Yaira was one of the few characters that I created before I wrote the actual story. And that's important. That's an interesting note, that Yaira was created before the story was written. So in other words, this character was like, okay, I definitely want this character in somehow before the story was going, forward. So that's pretty cool. And now I'll lose my place here. This is due to the fact that I had great intentions for her, and she'll be a very prominent character of the Rippaverse. After documenting her backstory, I wrote the description of the character. It was almost as if I had to create 2 different looks because I wanted there to be visual changes to Yaira when she goes from her rest stage to her powers being activated. So the first thing we worked on regarding the concept art was how she looked at rest. I wanted her to have familiar features while also being abnormal even when she's not using her powers. So, she still kind of has that unique physique and look, even when her powers aren't activated. That, that's an important detail that you'd want to have, for the drawings, especially if you're having changed states. Therefore, she's very tall. Marcos sketched the art of her working out based on my description, and this was used as the basis of her appearance in the book. At this time, we also created what she looked like when activating her powers in street clothes. I didn't want her to wear a suit in the main story, but I knew it was important to design. We handled her suit after we did the work for some of the other characters, and Marcos honestly led the charge on the design. I gave him some basic ideas, and he knocked it out of the park. So yeah, Marcos down there, great job on those initial designs. And it is important, right, to have the character fleshed out in multiple forms, especially if there is a changed state whenever you're, going to be going from your everyday person look to your super power, supered up look. You need to have those well developed so that you have the differences in the transformation. So that's super cool. All right. Let's take a look at this next page here. So I'll zoom on up here. So again, they have 2 different characters, one on each page. We're going to look at Sanford Willard next. And he's got that nice kind of, farmer, almost Clark Kent-y feel with the beard, right? You got the flannel button up, those blue jeans, right? Definitely farmer vibes. Okay. So Sanford Willard. I wanted to create a character that was connected to ISOM but wasn't exactly family. Since we built ISOM to have his own ranch, I figured, why not have some sort of lead ranch hand play a significant role? Makes sense. Because the ranch is important to ISOM, the person that helps run it will therefore be very important. He acts as someone that's able to hold down the fort when ISOM's doing his thing. I've already built his backstory and can't wait to expose much of it to the audience. There'll be plenty of avenues to take a story. I sent the description I had of him to Marcos, and as usual, he did a great job of the description. So there you go. You can see it very clearly there that they, kind of set up his forward and back look, some side profiles. Not too hard to design. It's in terms of the actual character there, straightforward in terms of his outfit. But important to get those details down, like even just little things like the stripes on a flannel shirt. If you don't have continuity, that can fall apart really quick, right? You want to make sure that you don't lose those details, and stuff like that can be lost very quickly if you don't actually note that down in your character design. So that's good they had that down. As you said, seeing Yaira cosplays on near day 1 was really awesome. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, right? People are already cosplaying and doing a pretty good job too. They really matched what she did. Yeah, Krista Nova nailed it. Yeah, it was very impressive. It was very impressive. Okay, so here we're going to be looking at Sant1 next. So as you can see, he's got the Merc security. It's kind of like a DJ turntable looking symbol for the Q. And he's got that gold grill. All right, so Sant1. After most of the people connected to ISOM were conceptualized, I thought to develop his adversaries. I knew before I wrote the story that I wanted the first book to showcase some of his powers. This meant that there would be physical confrontation, and that's when I began to create Sant1. He's a character that was meant to be much bigger and display more raw strength than ISOM. But alluding to the existence of a previous altercation was something I did as I was writing the book. Both characters having a brief history made their altercation more meaningful and gets the audience thinking. Absolutely agreed, right? If there's history there, then it makes you wonder what was that history. The description I had for him was something intimidating, and I really emphasized the gold teeth for Marcos. Wait until you all learn of his past. So I would say that Marcos definitely did a good job here of making him look like a buff security guard, right? He's jacked, right? He's got an intimidating looking face, right? He's got the gold grill. I think that was a good character design. I think that was really representative of that idea. So great job, Marcos, there. Okay. Flipping the next page. Got another 2 pages of characters. So you got Sergeant Mick Davies and Lillian Ronashi. Okay. So I'm going to take a look first here at Sergeant Mick Davies. Okay. Again, this book serves as a launching pad for our universe. We have to get creative because although this may be the first book, there are obviously events that happen in this universe prior to book 1 being introduced. Yaira already has a history in the city of Flores Park, which means that she would have had a run-in with its law enforcement. This is where Sergeant Mick Davies comes into play. I want a seasoned leader in the police force that would be utilized for years to come in this universe. When I created him, his appearance is simply that of what I envisioned as a believable police sergeant. Which, yeah, I mean, I'd say design-wise, definitely. He got that quintessential police mustache, right? He's got a little bit square jawing, right? Looks, a little stocky. I think definitely fits the vibe and the look. Absolutely. Good stereotyping there. All right, let's take a closer look here at Lillian Ronashi. So this is going to be an interesting character because her design too in the trading cards was excellent. So that was really great artwork there too. So the continuity of character is really great. All right, let's take a look here. So I've had many character ideas in mind, but legitimizing their existence is the most important thing. I don't want any character that I emphasize to just exist for the sake of existing. So as I fleshed out Lillian, I was thinking of how I could introduce her. This is when I came up with the idea of having her be part of a duo with another character. But I didn't want her to just be another character that was from the city of Flores Park. It's a great city that will obviously attract outsiders like Lillian and Michael Copper. Coming up with her powers was the easiest part of it as well, easiest part of it all, as well as their overall design. Marcos really took the lead, however, on fleshing out my original ideas and took it to the next level. For example, her glowing hair tips was something that Marcos added. So I think that is a good idea. The glowing hair tips, I think, especially since you're already doing it with Yaira, right? It kind of adds into that like energy flare, makes her look a little bit more interesting in terms of the character. And the choke collar, I like that, right? Little bit fan service, right? A little bit of fan service right there. All the weeb fan service. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a fun character. This character, I really do like the design of. So, this the next one, this next page, Michael Copper. I think that I just really like the green eye concept. I think that was an excellent choice. And on the same page will be Darren Fontano, so we'll go over that too. So here's just a little bit closer up of the Michael Copper. And the suit is, very, the matching belt and everything. It's super slick. I like that. I like that design. Okay. Lillian Renashi's partner needed to be the opposite of her, considering the story I wanted to tell. I purposely wanted to be this way for the sake of the dynamic. I've always been intrigued by the concept of eye-based powers, and I don't think it's something that has been expanded upon nearly enough in comics. True. I figured Michael would be my shot at doing so. Making the audience wonder what interest Michael has in Flores Park is something that was purposeful. It's not about him being mysterious. It's more that you all know that he's at least ambitious. So what does his existence mean for characters like ISOM or Darren Fontano? So I would say that sounds like it's a competition to Darren in a sense. Like that might be a conflict in the business side of things as opposed to Darren in the story. Okay. Let's take a look here over at Darren Fontano. There we go. You get a good sense of that. Especially, look at all those rings, right? Loaded, probably platinum, gold, white gold, or something like that. Definitely try to make him look like a hustler, like he's got a lot of money, like he's a gangster or something. All right. And also the rows are a good touch too. I like that. So Santuan was meant to oppose ISOM physically. I want a different character to oppose him mentally and ideologically, right? Which definitely makes you think of, common tropes, right? Where it's like Superman and Lex Luthor, right? Intellectually, that kind of thing. You have people that, challenge them, even if they're not physical strength. It's how they think and how they act with their skills in thinking that makes the discourse interesting. So I agree. It's a wise move to have a character you can have an intellectual challenge for. Creating an intimidating villain without powers that was meant to challenge a character with special abilities is not easy. That's exactly why I wanted to do it. In fact, it's more intriguing that there's someone out there who strikes fear in people in a world full of super beings and doesn't even have powers. Agreed. Definitely. It makes them have to have much more character development to suggest why it is that they're so crafty and good at what they do with, harm people. This is where Darren Fontano comes into play. He gives off a king of the city vibe while also having a history with ISOM. He carries himself respectfully, yet you all can see that he's pretty cutthroat. His appearance was something I came up with in great detail from Marcos, which made it easy for him. Yeah. I mean, he absolutely looks the part. Nothing confusing about that. Looks definitely like kingpin, gangster kind of guy, tough guy. Absolutely. Nailed it. All right. Flip it over. So on these pages, we have Cedric, Gaucho, and Brian Solari. So we're starting to move. As you can see, we're going to get to the other super beings in the Alpha Core soon. Okay. Oh. Whoops. Flipped it back over. Cedric is one of the characters I had the most fun creating. Much like Darren Fontano, I wanted other important people without powers. Though we designed ISOM's suit, I didn't want him to have him already fighting in it. Right, you want some character development maybe as to why he gets the suit on or back, you could say. Cedric was used as a device to explain the existence of the suit while also introducing someone that has clout in other special beings. That conversation between him and ISOM toward the end of ISOM 1 lets the reader in on so much. I developed his whole backstory in great detail and dropped plenty of nuggets for the reader during his first appearance. You want to keep tabs on Cedric. The physical description that I gave to Marcos emphasized the fact that he's very suave. Because why wouldn't he be? He's a designer after all. Well, yeah, I mean, if he's going for the, eccentric designer, right, that makes sense. He definitely has that eccentric designer feel, like the shades, the different crazy suits. I think it reminds me too, the eccentric designer lady in Incredibles, right? Who's modeled after a real person, right? The person who's a suit designer got to be a little eccentric, right? So, and then I don't know, common other suit designers. I think like Invincible. He had a guy, a special guy. Well, that guy didn't have like crazy outfits. He was just like a Jewish dude who had connections with them. He wasn't himself like very, eccentric. But I think having an eccentric designer makes sense and makes for great outfits and visual intrigue for sure. So I'm glad he went that direction. Keeps it interesting. Brian Solari. All right. So now we're getting into Alpha Core. As you can see there's Marcos's great work doing the initial sketches and fleshing out the character, getting that color palette down. I did like the green, like emerald feel to the suit. I think that was a great design choice. It gives you that like militarized feel to them, right? It makes you think that they're part of some military, police thing. So it made a lot of sense, to have that kind of design. All right, Brian Solari. I knew early on in the writing of the story that I wanted a super police team. For a big, rich city such as Flores Park, it makes all the sense in the world that there be a team deployed by the local government to handle superpowered villains. But that team needed growth, so I started the creation of the leader that was meant to give off the impression that he was very familiar with Yaira. Brian Solari looks like a very traditional superhero, but he's not a vigilante. Exuding confidence and strength was something that we emphasized. When you see him in the book, you know right off the bat that he's the clear leader of Alpha Core. When I sent the information to Marcos, he nailed it so well that there need to be no corrections in the concept art. Wow. So awesome work, Marcos. You nailed it first off. Which, I mean, yeah, definitely makes sense. That looks, it definitely looks apart from what Eric just described there, right? He looks buff. He looks tough. He looks like he's an ex-Marine or something like that. He has, the suit colors and design definitely has a militarized feel to it. The cape gives him, kind of a regal sense, although, the argument about capes aside, well, whether they're a hindrance or help doesn't matter, because in terms of the character, it gives him more of that kind of ominous presence. So I think that works. I think that was a cool design element there. All right. Gently flipping these pages. All right, so now we're getting more deep into the Alpha Core. We have, let me see if we get this nice and clear. There we go. Jeremiah Braswell and Ingrid Valdez. So we're going to be continuing here with the Alpha Core. So Jeremiah, let's talk about him. The first member of Alpha Core that the reader sees is Braswell, and it was always meant to be that way, as he was the first member of the team that I created. With his existence came the creation of the Alpha Core logo as well. Though he technically is just a super cop, I wanted to look cool and unique. Hell, I wanted all of them to have their own personalities and uniforms that represented that. I conjured up this helmet and jacket combo that Marcos really made look well. He's the most mysterious of the group, and I thought the visor on his helmet was a good way to really display that. Yeah, I think that when it comes to the design here, it gives you that motorcycle cop feel, right? So it definitely works for the casting, absolutely. And I like the little logo there, the AC, the Alpha Core logo with the spikes. I think that looks good. That's a sharp looking design. So I think that was a good move there. He definitely looks more regular, like in terms of his clothes, like in that outfit. He looks more like a plainclothes police officer, or not plainclothes police officer, just a police officer dressed up in a uniform that would be suitable to like being a motorcycle cop or something like that. Whereas if you look at Ingrid here, now that her suit is definitely a custom looking super suit here. All right, she's got something that's extra unique and special, very futuristic. All right, let's take a look at Ingrid. I probably had the most fun creating Ingrid, as she has the most unique power sets of all the Alpha Core members. She can't fly like the other characters, but you get the sense that she's very capable and unafraid. And I'm also wondering too, right, with those power whips, it says she can use it for transport. So it makes you wonder, is that Spider-Man like that she can use it, like wrapping around things to propel herself? Can she whip it in a way that propels herself forward, like bouncing off the ground? Can they twist to become like a helicopter? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see it, what the use for transport aspect is. But she's what I call a wire caster. You at least know she's able to emit a wire that's strong enough to even contain yaira. I told Marcos what I wanted from the suit, such as it being armored and having the holstered gun. But having the wires sort of wrap around her arms was the addition of Marcos. Great design idea, Marcos. Absolutely. Doing the wires around the arms makes her more unique looking. It draws more intrigue. It makes it much more exciting. I think that was a good idea to have those kind of interesting energy wires wrapping around. Super cool. Okay, we're getting toward the end here. Very close. Okay, so now we're on to the other characters from Norfolka. So these are the characters that almost kind of, at least in the book itself, they set apart from the series in almost as like their own little vignette. It's their own little introductory mini comic, essentially, is how I see it within the larger comic. So it's like they almost have their own thing going on. So you can see here up close, we're going to be looking at Valdez first. Very big, buff, Icelandic or, Norwegian, Northern European looking dude. And Takari, very African looking, which somebody had mentioned to me on the other stream that he was, being from Mauritania, was actually a real African country. And I made the mistake of thinking that they had just made the name up for the comic, but appears that he actually may have come in the comic from the actual country in Africa, not that it was being used, that label, as some like mystical place or some foreign planet or something. They were, I think, possibly really referencing that country in Africa. So you learn something new every day, because I definitely don't know all. I haven't had to memorize the countries in Africa in like 20 plus years. Whatever they did that in, late middle school or whatever, you like start to memorize the countries of different continents. All right. So Valdez. I didn't feel satisfied with ending the story the way I initially planned, which was the conversation between ISOM and Cedric. Sure, we gave the audience something to look forward to, but I figured we could do more. I wanted some characters that were godlike and figured I'd read into Norse mythology to get inspired. Before I went through his backstory, I designed Valadin's physical appearance as he first would be seen in ISOM 1, and later Marcos and I designed his uniform. Justifying his existence on Earth came with the creation of his band Norfolka. I'm a metalhead, yes, obviously, so I thought to use a metal band. To make things even more intriguing, I made sure that there was another godlike being in the band, Takari. The number of ideas that went flowing through my brain was insane. I had to catch myself because I almost got ahead of myself. Valadin's introduction was the perfect teaser. So again, clearly, different design elements, different style for these types of characters. It really does set it up almost like as if this is going to be its own series, right? Maybe there'll be some crossover ISOM, but it's definitely kind of a vignette to what would be a different standalone series. All right, let's take a look here at Takari, which his outfit is pretty sick, actually. I think that's some excellent design on his cloak. That's super cool. Okay. The gold accent too, that really does it for me. That's super sick. For whatever reason, people forget that Africa has its own folklore and mythology. This aspect is especially underused in comic books. The creation of Takari is my attempt at giving this a shot. So that's why it actually, may have come from Mauritania, the country in Africa, on the far west coast. He's a guitarist of Norfolka, and much like with Valadin, Marcos and I developed his appearance in the book first and foremost. When we went back and designed his suit, it came out absolutely amazing. I wanted his attire to be completely rooted in African tradition, sending Marcos some references. Much like with everything else, Marcos just gets it and came up with an unbelievable design. His design is one I'm most proud of. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at it. It's the cloak is super cool. So the detail, putting the accent designs on the ends and the sleeves and the neck lining really gives it a nice, unique design. And it kind of like, it gives it the African feel, but also like a very elegant feel to it too. And now we're getting to the end. This last page is a blank. And then you can see right here, we're on the Docomon. So Docomon, which makes you want to say it with like a Jamaican accent or something like that, like a Jamaican or African accent or something like that. Docomon, but he doesn't look that way. He just looks kind of mystical, ghost-like, something supernatural almost looking. Will he be supernatural? I don't know. We will find out soon enough. So it says here, I had aspirations to do trading cards with our first release, and this was understood very early on in the development process. With that being said, I didn't want to do basic trading cards that were based on some of the characters we introduced. Giving them a lore was my way to tie the actual cards in the universe. So I created Docomon, and the trading cards you collect are his. The fun part will be when you see him in the books, you'll learn why he has the cards in the first place and why he's keeping up people in our universe. I told Marcos that I wanted them to be mysterious and cosmic-like, and this was the awesome design he came up with. So again, Docomon, very mysterious, cosmic feeling. I mean, the concept to me sounds, a lot of similar ideas to the Watchers and the Marvel, like kind of like these super beings that keep tabs on everything and don't really intervene unless it's absolutely necessary. But I don't know. We'll find out. I'm leaving myself open to the unique possibilities of what Docomon could actually be. I would love to see a twist with it. I would love to see you think that he's a Watcher or something like that, and it's like totally not. It's something else, maybe more sinister or evil or something of that nature. That'd be super cool. We'll see, though. Not my control. So ISOM, there it is, the official and original concept art of Rippaverse Comics. That's it. That's the full bit there. It's got a lot of the core, characters that they started with, in terms of the series, and not all of them are even in there, I think. Or are they? Wait, actually. Yeah, actually, no. I think that they actually do all show at some point, right? I can't remember now. Now I'm like losing it. I'm like, did all of them show up at some point? Because I know I saw them at virtually every single one. But now, if anybody remembers that one of them wasn't shown, let me know. But I'm pretty sure all of them were in it, in terms of the actual ISOM comic at some point. Not on the same story, because obviously Valadin and Takari were kind of their own little vignette, but it's going to be interesting to see how they all come together. So yeah, Marco says here, Solari is one of the most fun ones to make. That's awesome to hear. And he says, I'm happy to see the designs are being enjoyed by everyone. Yeah, thank you for putting together some awesome designs there, Marco. Seriously, it's cool to see the development process. I think a part of that is inspiring for people, especially people who are also themselves artists or working to make their own series. Being able to see the development process and think about what it takes and put together color palettes and different like turns and sketches and like positioning of characters. A lot of people just don't know. It's not like typically common knowledge in this way, for people to hear about what it takes to work in the comic book realm. And I said as somebody who way long ago switched out of art school. I was in art school for a bit, but it was garbage. It was terrible. I was supposed to be doing digital media, and they kept putting me in all these non-digital classes. And I ended up leaving that program, going to a different program in my college because it was just so bad. It's very hard to find really narrowly tailored educational resources in this realm of like, oh, okay, the comic book world of design. So being able to see that put together and the step-by-steps was awesome. And Eka says, ooh, epic. Yeah. Yeah, one way to find it out, read it again. Yeah, exactly. Gonna read that. Have to read the issue again. Because I did read it, pretty carefully, but it's a lot. It's a honker of a book. This ain't no just single 24-page issue here. This is a 96-page comic book. So I probably will actually need to read it again just to take everything in on another level and like look for other things. Because, when you're first reading, you're often just like looking at at least as far as I'm concerned, I'm often just focused on like the text bubbles and I'm skimming around the art. But sometimes you need to like look around deeper at the art and see if there's any Easter eggs or anything that you didn't pick up the first time. So yeah. So that's super cool. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. I appreciate you chilling with me for this ISOM concept art read. And, that's it. There's only 2,000 of these. So if you got it, you got it. And if you didn't, you might have to luck out and hope that either someone got an extra they're going to sell or someone's going to gift it to you or inherit it, because that's it. There was only 2,000. So, that's why I wanted to cover this, because, it's not something that everybody's going to be able to get their hands on, unfortunately, and fortunately for the people who are like me and like having something that's very unique and collectible. So I'll be maybe coming back later next week, doing some more streams, talking about whatever comes on up, because I've been really enjoying getting to cover Rippaverse and other things going on out there in the comic world and creative world and Liberty world too. So probably be doing this more regularly, at least maybe one stream a day of at least maybe Monday through Thursday arena, talking about whatever's going on that's important or cool, related to Liberty comics and whatever else comes up. So, all right, take care, everybody, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Zero State.